It's just that in ADHD, it's surprising that these things would work, right? I mean, if the problem is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, what we're really talking about here are children that are prescribed a drug that ought to be a stimulant. It ought to make them hyperactive. And rather than doing that, it actually somehow serves to calm them a bit or at least allow them to focus. Here's the reason. Children have a brain that's very plastic, meaning it can remodel itself and change in response to experience very, very quickly compared to adults. Taking stimulants as a child, if you are a child diagnosed with ADHD, allows that forebrain task-related network to come online, to be active at the appropriate times. And because those children are young, it allows those children to learn what focus is and to sort of follow or enter that tunnel of focus. Now, by taking a drug, it's creating focus artificially. It's not creating focus because they're super interested in something. It's chemically inducing a state of focus. And let's face it, a lot of childhood and school and becoming a functional adult is about learning how to focus even though you don't want to do something. In fact, when I was in college, I had this little trick that may or may not work for some of you, which is if I couldn't focus on the material I was trying to learn, I would delude myself into thinking that it was the most interesting thing in the world. I would just kind of lie to myself and tell myself, okay, I won't mention the subjects. I absolutely love this. I would tell myself that I loved it. And I noticed that just that selective or deliberate engagement of that desire to know circuit, whatever that is in my brain, no doubt it involves dopamine, allowed me to focus and remember the information. And somewhat surprisingly, or perhaps not surprisingly, I would often fall in love with the information. I find that was my favorite class. It was what I wanted to learn the most. So that's one way you can do it artificially, but kids with ADHD, they can't do that, right? They're told to sit still and they end up getting up 11 times. They are told that they can't speak out in class or that they have to remain in their seats for 10 minutes and they just, despite their best effort, they simply cannot do it. They're highly distractible. So what are we to make of this whole picture that we need more dopamine, but these kids with ADHD, they're getting their dopamine by way of a drug, which is, for all the world, amphetamines, right? It's speed. That's really what it is. What are the long-term consequences? What are the short-term consequences? And what should we make of people taking these drugs without a clinical need?